Every founder has a story to tell. Otherwise, they wouldn't have started a company. The thing you're trying to do when you create content as a founder is you're trying to say smart things and you're trying to say them frequently. Look at Jensen and NVIDIA, Toby and Shopify. It shows how powerful this concept is.
Can we go back to the Winter Wonderland before we start?
Yeah.
Well, you want more video?
No, but that is unbelievable. Man.
Yeah, I mean, that's yeah.
Is there any chance you have a one-horse open sleigh?
You know what? If that
I have been on one. I have been on one actually. They do have those up here.
I'm putting that on the TikTok for sure. By the way, today I was talking to a guy about being a guest, and I'm like, because we've learned this. It's like, dude, honestly, if you're gonna come on, you have to listen to the show first, because we've had like where it's like, if you don't know that Matt and I like to poke around in the start and then throughout, it's like it can be a shock to the system. They kind of get a little they freeze in their tracks, you know. And like, so if you're
got him.
Like Matt, like we get on, we start making fun of each other, and it's like and now we have Sam, so we can make fun of Sam, which is great. By the way, Scott, if you need any moments during this and feel better about yourself, just go ahead and attack Sam.
Actually, that would be a great spin-off podcast for you guys, where you're just trying to get the guest. You're just trying just like, absolutely stop them in their tracks. Like,
dude, I love that, because here's the thing about Matt. He's so professional, but then if you talk to him like offline, his observations, particularly one skill you do have, Matt, lookalike. You're good at lookalikes.
What do you mean?
You're good at like being like, oh, is that dude, or not lookalikes, like funny descriptors of people. And it's often
that's good. That's a skill.
Okay.
That's a skill. Yeah.
He's not aware of said skill.
I'm gonna try to be more aware of it.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna get going in a minute here. Scott Albro is how many return guests have we had?
This is the
no. This is the second.
Oh,
second.
These are the verified. We had Dixon and Orlob.
Oh,
this is the third.
All right. Well,
Politis.
I consider myself in good company then.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Those guys
hang on. We're just adding names. We went from 1 and now we're at like 15.
Yeah. I mean, how many times?
We
had. Yeah. Well, let's go for the third time guest then.
All right.
Well, yeah. It's as long as you're in the top 5 of anything, you're doing well. So,
all right.
But anyway,
from ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
A lot of people know Scott and I because we worked together for 15 some odd years, but now I'm doing my thing, and then Scott is now advising founders through founder brand, founder go-to-market, and other sort of company building topics. I can tell you, after 15 years, he's one of the best guys you could talk to. And so the last show was great, but generally speaking, he's an amazing guy to have a conversation with. We're known for Topo. We did 3 things together, actually. We tip it. And then, by the way, nobody talks about Focus and Ask Jeeves, but we'll keep that on the DL. And then Topo. And so
we actually did 4. Covalent.
Oh, yeah.
Covalent is where we first met.
Yeah. By the way, Covalent is an example of product market fit, because, dude, the alumni from Covalent are some of the most successful guys I know.
Yeah.
And women, guys is a metaphor for people. I mean, literally, the talent.
And the company didn't work, right?
Yeah.
But the diaspora is incredible.
The diaspora is incredible. Even the CEO John Jack is a legend.
He's an absolute legend. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's amazing. But anyway, you're right. That's 4. Cool.
Well,
so
before we read off too much more of this vocabulary lesson, I want to pin Scott down on something. Now, obviously, you guys have done 4 things together. I think, for me personally, I first met both of you guys. Well, I met Craig a little bit before Topo started, but
Yeah.
mostly knew Craig and got to know Scott during their time at Topo. I imagine that there's a very long list of this, but I'd love a Craig story from the Topo years.
Oh yeah, there's a really long list. But I'll try and tie it into like, well, what we want to talk about on this podcast, which is go to market stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of my favorite memories of Craig is he was so relentless when it came to customer acquisition, even though that wasn't his job at Topo, right? Like Craig
Mhm.
was our chief analyst, but he would not stop going when it came to customer acquisition. And you saw it in lots of different parts of the business, right? So Craig came up with this concept of, he and I were the co-founders, and each of us had to go do 5 meetings a week. So we'd get our 10 meetings per week. I think we've talked about that before and told that story before. That was absolutely critical to the success of Topo. Another version of that, though, was every year Dreamforce was a very big event for us because we were essentially like go-to-market research and advisory. And Craig would set these completely unreasonable objectives for Dreamforce, right? Like, no, collectively as a company, we are going to have 200 meetings with people at Dreamforce that fit the ICP and fit the target persona. And he was so relentless, he would go do it, right? And he'd get other people to go do it. And that was another thing that drove a ton of success at Topo. But probably my favorite memory and something that just showed how relentless Craig was when it came to go-to-market and customer acquisition was when we would identify an account or a person at an account where we felt like we just wanted to throw the book at that account and engage that account no matter what. Craig and I would often end up getting on planes together to go see that account, right? I mean, no surprise there.
Sure.
And so we'd end up in a place like Houston, Texas, and stack meetings. I mean, we'd do like 10 meetings a day for 3 days or whatever, right? And Craig was so on in these meetings, but the minute you like got in the Uber to go to the airport or go to another meeting, I'd want to like debrief on the meeting or whatever. And Craig has already fallen asleep in the Uber. And he was like, you know how you read about these Navy SEALs or Delta Force or whatever, how they can be in combat. And when you can just like sneak 10 minutes of sleep, they just flip a switch, they go to sleep, and then they wake up 10 minutes later and go do whatever they have to go do next. Craig had these Navy SEAL Delta Force operator like attributes that way.
Oh,
it just wasn't warfare. It was just go to market. So anyway, that's a very fond memory of Craig and something I'll never forget because it really like personifies who Craig is. And by the way, I like sharing that story because I feel like really good founders and executives who excel at go to market, they all sort of have that like relentless characteristic.
Yeah.
They'll do whatever it takes to win customers. And so there are many memories of Craig. Oh, one other sleeping memory of Craig. And Craig's not a sleeper, by the way. Like Craig works until like 3 a.m. every night. But we used to host this big event that we called Summit, and Craig was always one of the keynote speakers. And there was like, I can't remember what it was called, like the speaker room where if you're a speaker, you wait there and then they escort you to the stage and you go up on stage. And in Craig's case, he'd do his keynote. So one year, it's like T-3 minutes for Craig's keynote. And I'm in the speaker lounge, I guess it was called, and Craig's in the speaker lounge. And I look over and he's just asleep, literally 3 minutes before the keynote. And people are coming up to me going, is this okay? Is this norm? Should we wake him up? And I'm like, no, get to like T-minus 60 seconds and then wake him up. So
Nice.
anyway, I love that.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a surprise. And by the way,
I have a photo of that, by the way. I don't know if we can share photos in this pot, but I do have a photo of that. Yeah.
We're going to share the photo
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
You could just send it over.
yeah, there was a lesson in there. And by the way, the 10-minute sleeping thing, I learned that from a dude at an airport gate who was in the military. And I said, what's one thing you've taken from your life in the military to the real world? He said, anytime you can sleep, even if it's for 3 minutes, you take it.
Yep.
And dude, I just be like, yeah, that's so funny, dude. In between. All right. That was a good interlude. Let's do this. Let's go to our main question that starts every podcast, which is, what's something that the market thinks they're doing right? It could be approach, methodology, tactics, etc. And they're actually wrong, and they should be thinking about it differently. And what is that, and what should they be? What should that new approach be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is I like to come up with things that aren't known or contrarian or whatever. And so maybe this is like too pat of an answer, but I feel like the adoption of AI tools in the go-to-market stack is taking us down the wrong path. And most AI tools, because of the nature of AI, which we can talk about, are built to automate things, obviously, right? And for most people, automation, at least right now, means quantity. And so when I say people are headed down the wrong path, I feel like these tools and applications sort of automatically steer people in the direction of like, well, the thing that I do with this tool is I increase quantity. And the problem with that is we haven't in the AI world really figured out the quality piece. I am a believer that you can do quantity and quality at the same time. I don't think that's a zero-sum game at all, right? The problem is the tools just aren't good at quality yet. Now they will get better over time, but that would be the one thing I would just caution people against right now is like, yeah, efficient growth is a thing. Quantity is not necessarily the answer or the solution for efficient growth. In fact, I think you could make the argument that quality is the answer or the solution for efficient growth. The problem is we have a bunch of tools that sort of push us in the other direction towards quantity over quality. And so I'm actually very bullish on sales tech right now because of AI. I haven't been in a few years, but like I think there are things starting to happen in the market that make me a lot more optimistic than I was yesterday. But we've got to figure out this quantity thing. That's a real problem, and we're sort of like walking ourselves into a trap. And I'm very concerned about that for most go-to-market organizations.
So when you talk about the things that are actually making you excited in the sales tech space, let's double click there. What are those things?
Yeah, I just think we're starting to ask the right questions and have like debates about big things. And so some of the big things that I'm paying attention to are, so what approach is going to win? Are we going to have swarms of agents helping us, or are we going to have one general purpose co-pilot? I think that's a big question that people are debating right now. And I think that's a really interesting question. Another question that people are debating right now, you hear a lot of people talking about like, well, the old playbooks are dead, right? Like the old inbound playbook's dead, the old outbound playbook's dead. And and people have been talking about that for a little while now, but I'm finally starting to see people talk about, well, what's new? What's actually going to work? And so there are these big questions that we're starting to ask ourselves in the go-to-market world. And you might wonder, like, well, why would that make you bullish? I have this belief that, like, when you ask big questions and vendors and buyers and the community start debating those questions, that's usually a sign that there's a transformation about to take place. And it feels like we're finally there with go-to-market and with AI. previously I didn't, the last couple of years with AI and go to market, I didn't think anyone was asking like really big questions and like coming with, like another example is like of a big question is like, well, is AI going to replace humans or is it going to augment humans in the go to market?
Right.
Salespeople and SDRs being the most like that's a really great question, regardless of how you feel about what the right answer. That's a great question for the go-to-market world to be debating and trying to understand. And I think when we debate those questions in the go-to-market world, that's a really good sign. It's usually a sign that some type of transformation is either already happening or is about to happen.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That is really good. And by the way, I would just say, I think in the near term, this is just my take is the Copilot. Well, I have two takes. The Copilot for me is the key to right now seeing AI success for an enterprise software type organization. Because as you said, the quality piece hasn't, like, quality without humans is not it's kind of elusive, right? And but mundane workflows and at least some queue up of either a template, some message that you can start with, or ideas and insights that you might be able to use. Those things to me are Copilot plays that can make a difference right now. I do think though, for like, because like we have here at Scale we work with Bland.ai, which is like a voice AI thing. And look, of course, right now, I don't think you would use that to go SDR into the CISO at GE, but there are tons of volume use cases, not in B2B, maybe in B2B, maybe like where you'd prefer people actually, because we have this weird contradiction, which is everyone keeps rolling around going, the buyer's X% down the buying cycle. I can't believe we still use those quotes. I've banned, and when I was an analyst, I banned people from pitching me on that. But if that's true, then agents should work in that use case as a way to help them without having to talk to humans. I actually, you know what I mean? And so it's from an agent, a pure agent perspective, non-human touch perspective, there are use cases for that, primarily like I see like volume, but also if you did like inbound on the B2B side, someone coming in and wanting to do a demo, or even an inbound qualification play, those things, you can see where a pure agent would work. But generally speaking, for enterprise software and those things where quality is now required, you cannot win today unless you have the product that's flying off the shelf.
Yep.
Then you have to have, in my opinion, Copilot. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing, so we talked to Gottlieb, Dan Gottlieb, everybody's a Gartner analyst, and he made this really good thing, which is like, I think Gartner has like AI on the downslope of the hype cycle, right? But one of the things, if you know the downslope of the hype cycle is, or just in general, these things get hyped, but then there's no use cases, no enablement, like nobody, you still, that part is where things really start to bring growth back into a market, right? And like in the case of AI, I just went to a RevOps dinner, and you could see that there's too many different use cases being thrown out there and tried. And what we need, like if you take sales tech, for example, the sales engagement platform, that use case became clear after a while, which was you can send more trackable emails, right? I'm just making that, but like just a crude thing, but that use case. So then, the market changed because people said we need to send more emails. And we don't have that yet in AI. And we need people to keep doing these things. And then, as you said, Scott, asking there's the big questions and the small questions, right? And those things have to start to become consistent. And as a market, we have to start understanding these things. Then the thing sort of, retakes off. And so like, that's the thing for me is, we still don't necessarily. I mean, the last thing I'll mention, we did a study on AI and we did it across functions. It was really interesting. Product marketing was like 90% using AI.
Yeah.
And if you look at their use case, it makes total sense. Those guys have to write all the time. And if they could use AI to just accelerate that versus the grind that they live in, it made total sense, right?
Mhm.
That's a use case that's emerging that makes sense, which is they can work at a better speed. What was interesting, the SDR folks were testing AI. The RevOps, they basically said, no, we're letting the various people and functions test it. Not no enterprise wide RevOps AI mandate yet. And that is, to me, to the point I was making. The RevOps people need use cases, man, and they need proof, and then once they start to see those things, then they'll become sort of more active enterprise wide buyers. But right now they're just letting things happen. I think that is good. Like if users are just using AI and people are doing it, messing around, sometimes failing, failing, et cetera. That's how we'll get to the use case portion of this new sales stack and be able to take off.
Look, I think that last point is right on. This definitely feels like AI feels like a market where we are going to experiment our way into the right use cases.
Yeah.
Because they're not obvious, and sort of top down mandates when the use cases are not obvious, they just don't work, right? You just have to go let the teams do their things and experiment. And you can't have RevOps, like command and control this thing. You can't have the CIO command and control this thing. You just have to let people go experiment.
I the big one I've been intrigued by, Matt, has been, I don't feel like we have a ton of not momentum, but like big storylines, except for signals on the marketing side with AI. Do you agree with that? I don't know. It feels like, marketing always led the storylines for years on tech.
Yeah. But I think the most practical applications of a lot of this stuff ends up just being in sales, whether it's like retrofitting AI into an outreach or SalesLoft like interface, like what Reggie's doing. And my new place, we're a Reggie customer, we're using it really effectively for our sales team. And we're starting to do some experiments with it for marketing as well. I'll let you know how that goes. But I think there's a couple of things. One, I think I've observed what you've observed, which is like product marketing is the biggest user of AI right now. They're using it for ideation. They're using it for jump starting. They're using it for like, hey, I have this idea. Here's like an outline. Can you start to flesh this out into an article or into a white paper or stuff like that? So they are using it quite a bit. I think you could also say marketing's using it quite a bit if the BDR team or SDR team's a part of the marketing department, for sure. And then, I'm seeing some people do some experimenting with it with ads, not necessarily in the ad copy itself, but as people are clicking on ads and being driven to landing pages, some AI personalization there. But I haven't seen anything in market today where marketing teams are like, this is a game changer for us. This is unlocking something that we were never able to unlock before, or this is giving us, exponential growth in some, important metric. I don't know if it's because marketers have always been, or sort of the prevailing thought from marketers was, this scares me to the point of it being an existential threat to my career. I don't know, but also I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything that just really rocks from an AI perspective with marketing.
Yeah. By the way, I would say on the, Reggie, which by the way noted is in the portfolio of the company, the venture firm I work at, but Sri never bit on like the near term AI, like AI SDR thing. 2 years ago, he was always focused on, and Matt and Sri, they focused on workflow, and they really thought about 2 steps ahead on that. And that, I think, from a particularly from a co-pilot perspective and the overall sort of mechanics and workflows of what things done was pretty smart.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so Scott, what going back, I'm trying to remember what you said first though about AI. Oh, the big question. What is your thought on the agent versus co-pilot? Like where are we headed on that, or where are we now?
I don't know. I mean, to me, the all-in-one general purpose co-pilot, the promise of that is that um, it sure sounds a lot easier than a swarm of many agents helping you. I'm
Mhm.
not sure that wins in the long run, but boy, when it comes to like buying something for your sales team or marketing, whomever, the there's an argument to be made for the general purpose co-pilot. On the other hand, when you think about these sort of purpose built agents that do very specific things for you, maybe that's the easiest way to drive adoption, right? Is to find a particular use case per what we were just talking about, invest in that use case, and build or buy an agent that supports that very specific use case.
Yeah.
Given how things are going, I suspect that agent approach will win, right? Like it seems like that is the easiest thing to go buy right now. And now, whether that means in 5 years, a single AE's got, 20 different agents helping them or whatever the case might be, I don't know. But finding these very, what you guys were just talking about with Matt's marketing organization, it's like, okay, I'm going to go invest in signals, right? And I'm going to buy an AI that's just really good at or build one that's just really good at helping me identify different signals, right? And I'm just going to focus there right now. That seems to me to be where the market wants to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
You do a ton of LinkedIn work. Are people using AI to write their LinkedIn posts right now? Is that like prevalent?
I don't see many posts that are just like blatantly obvious. Some LLM just wrote the post. What I think people are doing is they're using it as a writing partner, right? I don't think people use it as much on the ideation side, maybe, but that would seem a little bit unusual to me. I think people use it in terms of like editing, um, making suggestion, what I would call like, fleshing out content, right? Like I've got this idea. Can you turn it into, a paragraph or a list of bullets? I think that's what people are using it for. The LLMs, in my opinion, still really struggle with original thought. Like most of what you get back is like, it's been said many times elsewhere. It's not original and it comes across that way. So, can it help you flesh an idea out and maybe not even flesh the idea out? It's more like, take this sentence and turn it into a paragraph, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
take this sentence and give me a list of bullets on like why it's true. Yeah. I think the most annoying thing on LinkedIn right now isn't the posts that are created by AI, because again, I see very little of that. It's the comments and replies and things like that are clearly AI generated. Where and I don't know if there are tools for this or if people are like copying and pasting the original post into the LLM and saying write a reply to this or leave a comment for this. That's like very obvious and really annoying. And there are these repeat offenders out there who are on they are liking and commenting on every post just using AI.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Wait, by the way, Sam was shaking his head at you when you during your Sam. Feel free to unmute. Do you disagree that Scott's take that people are not using AI to write their LinkedIn posts?
I would say maybe you've cultivated a better LinkedIn feed than I have, because I would say it's much more prevalent.
All right. That's good to know. Yeah.
Then yeah, and the AI comments are just awful.
Yeah.
What is that? Are people?
Yeah, so this is the first time I've heard this. We're gonna have to dive deeper into this. This is interesting.
They're going. Should we have known? If Matt, thank you for breaking the ice because I'm pretending like, what the hell? Is there an app for that, Sam?
I'm sure there is. There's a ton of like LinkedIn third-party stuff, but I think also people are just copy and pasting, like Scott said, into ChatGPT. And it's super obvious
Yeah.
and it's super cringy, especially when you look at someone's profile and you can see all of their comments and they're all like the same style.
Yeah.
So
It's
we're
wild.
talking about people who want to sort of traffic jack other like popular posts and like that just plants like AI driven comments and questions on there.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sam. Yeah.
I was just gonna say manufacturing touch points
Yeah.
Holy
with
crap.
certain key accounts.
Holy, are you? Wow.
Yeah.
Scott, do you, Jesus.
But it does it doesn't work, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's totally shooting yourself in the foot because it's so obvious that it's just AI content, right? So
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So like we're getting towards the end of the year. So if your big hypothesis for how you're going to have sales success in 2025 is I'm buying this AI tool that has my salespeople drop comments
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
target account posts, please don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Please don't.
exactly.
I had no idea, man. That is.
Oh.
It explains a lot. By the way, I had an AI text. You know, the people do the text and they try to get you to go on and buy gift certificates or whatever, gift cards. I don't know if you guys get these. I get like 2 a day.
No.
So like, so this
What
person.
part of the internet do you hang out on,
Yeah.
man? Jeez.
What,
Yeah, man.
What form did you fill out?
Oh, by the way, I filled out the form the other day, and then I was like, oh, I better go check. And I go on Reddit, and it was like, this is a scam. The minute you sign in, they're going to get into your desktop. So I went and got Bob, the guy who runs IT, and he's just looking at me going, what is the matter with you?
Yeah.
I said, no, I pulled out. I just did my email. He goes, yeah, but now they're going to look you up, right? And they're going to figure out that you sold a company, and now they're coming at you,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, oh my God. So anyway, I get this fake woman writes me a note the other day and says, hey, I noticed that your phone number was in here. I think I don't have a name. Do I know you? What's your name?
Yeah.
And so I used to just delete those and get scared. Now I write back to them and try to take it as far as I can. So I told her my name was Timmy.
Oh, okay.
He goes, Timmy, Timmy, I don't remember Timmy. Can you send me a picture? Here's mine. And it's clearly a stock, whatever picture, not anything untoward. And I go, oh yeah, I'm not sure I know you. I'm not really comfortable sending a picture. And she said, well, do you live in the Bay Area? Because your phone number is the Bay Area. And I wrote, I did in 1967. And she's like, 1960. She just gave up on me, which sucked. I think she was looking for a young guy that would, she would be able to milk me for money. But anyway, those are AI. There's some AI in there because she wrote when I said something and she wrote, this confuses me. Please explain. Oh my God. Anyway. All right. So nobody can relate to those AI texts I'm getting.
So far, we've identified some pretty interesting AI use cases that involve scamming people on LinkedIn and then potentially scamming people into buying gift cards. So
Gift cards. I'm seeing a podcast spinoff here, which is Craig gets ensnared in various scams.
Oh, yeah.
and explains himself. Yeah.
Oh man, it's that would be fun. That TikTok, our TikTok account would blow up on that.
Yeah.
And then so one other thing, Scott, though, that I think you brought up, I think, by the way, it's kind of Matt's pedestal too, which is quality. And I think everyone talks about it a lot, but then I'm not sure they adhere.
No,
Mhm.
This is why, dude, here's the thing. People have a lot of reasons why BDR or demand gen, programmatic demand gen is broken. The fact of the matter is it all comes down to quality. It all comes down to quality. Everything that we have done, starting with the rise of marketing automation in the early 2010s to the boom of sales engagement, everything that's happening with Gong, everything that's happening with AI, is to what Scott pointed out earlier. It's a rush to do more. It's just do more, send more, call more, more social posts, apparently more social comments. Like everybody's trying to do more, and more gift card, more text messages, more sugar daddies. The thing is nobody's trying to do better. And I think, Scott, you absolutely nailed it with that point earlier. Is like, because the focus has been more, the emphasis has gone away from better. And I think, like, we sit around here talking about what is the next stage of the playbook. If we think the old playbook is broken, I think it's pretty obvious. The next stage of doing really great B2B marketing is writing really great emails, writing really great content, doing a higher level production, being very thoughtful in the stuff that you put out, and maybe accepting the fact that, the product that you build or the content that you create isn't built for everybody, but build it for the right people and just do it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
That might be the answer.
Yeah. Totally, Matt. This is one of the reasons I think signals have a ton of promise. They have to be used the right way, right?
Yeah.
But signals seem like the first step in the quality direction, right? Like if I can know more about my accounts in a scalable way at the right time, right, et cetera, that feels like it goes a long way to improving this quality problem that we have right now. And, if I had to pick an area and go to market, AI or that I was most excited about, that would probably be it for that reason. Like, it seems like that's not just a quantity thing. That's a real quality thing.
Signals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Us too. It's funny. We hadn't talked about it in months. All right. So I like that, that, if we had to look at anything, signals is one that is really attractive from a relevance that tied with timing. I think timing, that you just said, Scott, that triggered me a lot, deal. Right? Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
And I was trying to dig up the data, but we just did a survey on signals. It was really interesting that the orgs that got the most out of signals used 6 or more, or 7 or more. I'll look it up. Give it. That means that, like, when you really sort of crack the nut on this, right? It's not one, it's multiple signals that can come together and allow you to deliver quality. Quality's hard. I was thinking a different tact with you. How are you still producing once a day on LinkedIn? Would you say?
No, I'll just say I took a hiatus. But I would say now I'm like 3 to 4 times a week, probably. Yeah.
And your content is quality. It does seem like that's hard for a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. I just, when it comes to producing content for LinkedIn or anywhere else, I believe a few things help. One is, like, are you an expert or authority in that particular area? Like, write about the things don't try and go into other areas. And a lot of people fake that on LinkedIn and other social platforms. 2 is, like, be genuine and authentic in terms of, like, who you are as a storyteller, right? So be an expert in terms of, like, your subject matter, but then just be, like, when you're writing a post or speaking on a podcast or whatever it is, don't try and be someone that you're not. Like, just be yourself. That's actually really important. That's easy to do, like video or podcast or whatever, right? Because you just be yourself. When you're writing, a lot of people feel like they have to go back to high school English and, like, write like, whatever Mrs. So-and-so told you how to write. And that makes it really, really hard. And then, the final thing that just makes it easier is, like, produce content in the medium that is the easiest medium for you to produce content in, right? Like, if you like to write, if that's the easiest thing, write. If you like to record voice memos on your phone during the commute, do that. If you like to record videos, do that. There are lots of, like, when I was doing my startups, I really would, the first year of each startup, I would spend a ton of time on the pitch, a ton of time. But most of that time was not in PowerPoint. Most of that time was in my car on it during the commute, talking to myself like, okay, here's how I want to say this. And here's how I want to say that. And that was sort of the easiest way for most people might think of that as there's some crazy dude talking to himself. I thought of that as like, no, I'm creating content, right? And that happened to be the sales pitch. It was very easy for me to talk to myself in the car and just work on the pitch for like an hour and a half every day. And that made it easy. Then it's a lot easier to put that into a PowerPoint or whatever, because I've got the story, right? So
yeah. Matt has been
talking to himself.
No, I don't think so. Matt, Gurton, I could see talking to himself quite a bit. I don't know about Matt. He does often when I'm on a call with Matt in his car, someone will make a driving move he doesn't like. He'll often have commentary. I think that's to me. But although if he wasn't on a call,
no, there's this incredible moment where, I have a lot of poor personality traits. One of them is I have the worst road rage. It's just I cannot help myself. And I was on the phone with Craig, and somebody cut me off, and I just tossed it out there, and Craig was, whatever. And Craig was like, "What? Me? What did I say?" And I'm like, no, some dude just cut me off or whatever. But yeah,
that's great.
But Craig also does call me 3 times a day, so he catches me in all kinds of different situations.
I used to call Scott like 10 times a day.
Oh, I'm sure.
I can't drive without being on a call.
Yeah.
I often get gas, do my shopping, all this stuff with Matt on the phone.
Yeah.
But Matt, I was talking about because so I know we're kind of a little bit off the AI thing, but as I just this quality thing, Scott just said something I think is really important that fell in line with something you've been talking to folks about, which is like, look, because a founder, let's say, or a thought leader that can't write all the time isn't always because they can't write. It's often because they're so meticulous that it's torture. And so Matt, like, hey, dude, do what we do, like record it on, once a week, and then chop it up. You can do text off that. And that falls with what Scott was saying, which is like, let's find the medium you're most comfortable with. And Matt's been kind of preaching that a bit just to help people alleviate
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I was just going to say, working with CEOs, it's, they'll write a blog post and they will just obsess over making it perfect. And I get it. Like, that's the reason why they're a CEO of a company, because they're obsessed with perfection and doing great things. And they're just like, oh, I wrote it. I don't love it anymore. I'm going to rewrite it, and end up tearing it down and starting over and over and over again. And it's just like, man, if you just record for 30 minutes, we can just edit the most important parts out of that and just load them into, into whatever medium is best for you, whether that's LinkedIn or TikTok or Facebook or whatever. And so I think that you make such a great point there. It's create content that's in the medium that's easiest for you to create, because you'll just do it. If it's a battle to do it every time, you're just not going to do it.
That's right. I love that idea. I think another version of, so talking's super easy for most people, right? So just talk. That's how I would characterize what you're describing. The other thing that's really easy for people is often just jotting down some notes. And the social platforms, it's like formality doesn't work. The perfect, manifesto or whatever actually works against you in a lot of the social platforms. So just jot down some notes about what you've been thinking about, or that meeting you just had, or whatever it is, or what that customer just told you. And those notes are probably 5 to 10% away from being publishable. Like, there's not a lot of work to get them published. And then, Matt, it's interesting because I tell some of my founder CEO clients, like, okay, so jot down the notes, turn that into a social post. And then if you want to do a blog post or something longer, more formal, where like tone really matters and it's It's got to kind of be perfect. Take that social post and turn that into the blog post or the whatever. And so there are all these little tricks to making content creation easier. I will say this, all that stuff helps. It is still hard. Like producing
Yeah.
the thing you're trying to do when you create content as a founder or a CEO is you're trying to say smart things and you're trying to say them frequently. And my rule
Mm-hmm.
there is minimum 3 times a week. Well, saying smart things or producing content that says smart things 3 times a week is hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it just is. It just is.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to nail that frequency thing in this day and age. You know, if you just say one smart thing a month, doesn't matter, right? You're not
Yeah.
in the stream. You're not out in the market. And you got to be there, and frequency is the thing that gets you there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one thing that a lot of CEOs they sort of take for granted is that their experience, whatever they have experienced, is super valuable. Super valuable. Whether it's, when I was raising around my first seed round, this is what happened. That's fascinating content for people. But for a lot of people, they just feel like, oh, that was, just part of the journey. That was something that I went through. Or for a marketer, the first time I launched a website, for the first time I sent an email, the first time I built some kind of complicated workflow. I think people think that we're beyond those things because there's already been a lot of content that's put around that. But the personal story around how that happened, I think is incredibly valuable. And I think for a lot of CEOs, they feel the need to always be profound, to be forward thinking, to sort of set the market, to demonstrate subject matter expertise. And you should do that if you can. But like, you could be like, hey, you know what the hardest thing I ever did was I had to unwind a company. Or the hardest thing I ever had to do was I had to tell an investor no.
Yeah.
And here's what happened. That type of stuff is actually what people want to know about. And it's interesting because I feel like, people have not want to make LinkedIn personal, and they want to make it about business all the time. And I think where those two things come together, where your personal experience and your business experience come together, those turn out to be the most viral posts that go out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I mean, personal stories work. I have this framework that I use with my clients. It's a tool to basically help founders figure out what story or stories they want to tell. And the coolest thing is, like, every founder has a story to tell. Otherwise, they wouldn't have started a company, right? Like, I mean, but when you try and pin these founders down on, like, okay, well, no, what are the stories? It's almost like a messaging platform, right? How a marketing org would think of a messaging. Okay, what are the stories we're gonna go tell? There are 3 story types that I typically recommend people start with. There are many others, but these are the 3 basic ones for a founder in a startup environment. One is a story that shows that you understand your customers' priorities and pains, right? And that story really revolves around, you can articulate how well you understand their priorities, and you have suggestions, best practices, solutions, whatever it is, to solve those pains and priorities. So that's one type of story. Second type of story is really a transformation story. Here's how this market is going to change, over the next 5 years. Here's who the winners and losers are going to be. I'm a guide to help you navigate that transformation, right? That's what I call the transformation story type. And then the third story type is the personal journey, which is what you're talking about. And those personal journey stories, they always resonate. By the way, what I coach people to do is to say, hey, those the customer priority stories and the transformation, just make those personal, right? Like the customer priority story, you can say, oh, well, we have this data that shows the number one pain point in, the manufacturing industry is X. That's one way to tell that story. But the other way to tell that story, which is way more powerful, is, I met with the CIO of a manufacturer yesterday. Here's what they told me, right? And that's a more personal version of that story. So I totally agree. Those personal stories resonate. The other thing, yeah, everyone's out there telling stories and there's so much content right now. That's why frequency is important, because the most recent story often wins. I mean, there are people I follow on LinkedIn and Twitter where I'm like, that's the most incredible thing I've read in the last month. And a month later, I can't remember what I don't remember what that was, with all due respect to the author, right? It's like, because there's this stream of content, you just have to be in that stream all the time. And that's what, back to the original point, makes content production so painful.
Amazing. Okay, guys, I'm going to ask everyone this. Who is right now well, not right now. It could be, you can judge this by all time in terms of building founder brand through content, speaking, social or not, whatever. Who's the best example or examples of that?
I can go if people want me to go first.
You go
Well,
first.
I mean, I didn't want it to
All right.
call on anybody,
All right.
but
Well, I'll go first. So I think about this stuff all the time. And I've got this little research project I'm doing where I'm just trying to catalog founder brands and stories and figure out, like, well, what are founders doing, and what's working and what's not. And the one, I mean, you can go way back and talk about like Benioff and, no more software, the end of software, that type of stuff. I mean, there are all kinds of great stories throughout. You can look at Jensen and NVIDIA and, Toby and Shopify. These are very, I think, kind of obvious examples now, which is cool. It shows how powerful this concept is. The one I'm really fascinated by right now is Service Titan. And they just filed to go public, and they built this incredible business. And the thing that I love about it is all those three story types we were just talking about. They nailed all three types, right? So it's a deeply personal story about these guys coming from a family where, the father was in the trades, right? Like, I can't remember what trade it was, right?
Yeah.
But Service Titan builds software for trade professionals, like people who come fix your HVAC or whatever it is, right? And so it's this really personal story and company and product for them. And then because they grew up in that world, in a family that owned one of those businesses, they understand the customer pains and priorities better than anyone else, right? And then it's also a story of transformation, this realization that, like, a lot of these trade businesses, they weren't modernizing, right? And there was a real opportunity to modernize these businesses and help these entrepreneurs, grow their businesses more, make more money, however you want to put it. And so they really nailed the three major story types. And I just think it's super cool how they did that. It felt really genuine what they were doing. And that's my favorite sort of founder brand story out there. I have no idea what they do on LinkedIn or and I don't care, right? Like,
stories.
But it's a great story that sort of checks all three story types.
That was fun. Would you say, Scott, that it's important for the brand of the business to echo the personal brand of the CEO?
That's a good question, and I'll be totally honest, I haven't thought about that. But let me just make something up on the fly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think in an ideal world, yes, that would be helpful, but it's not required, I don't think. And the other thing I would just say is, like, if the founder brand is strong and effective and working, that's probably going to happen, right? Yeah. Like the company brand is probably going to reflect the founder brand. So I guess I might maybe think of the question a little bit differently, which is like, hey, when you see corporate brands matching founder brands, is that a good or a bad thing? That seems like a really good thing. Really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to follow that? Because that was an incredible example. Matt, do you have one that falls in the service type, or Sam too? What would you answer to the question I laid out?
As far as a good example of a founder brand,
Bro, he just did service titan. It better be an exceptional example. Good?
Yeah. A
What's
lot
the
of
matter
pressure.
with this guy? I honestly, all right, go ahead.
whoa, okay. I was honestly gonna go with the easy one.
Don't go easy. Okay,
The
go
double,
easy.
the double mint twins. The double mint twins. Is that who we're gonna go with?
You got me. No, I was gonna go with Adam Robinson.
Yeah.
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 He's
I mean,
Like I
definitely
said,
modern.
the easy one.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Modern knife fight, like in a way that is it's remarkable to watch. for
Yeah,
sure.
and he's also, as far as like openness, just like I had to fire 40 people yesterday, and it sucked, and now I'm gonna like write about it in this post. That is really compelling, and that's that kind of personal journey side of things.
Yeah, that's a good one, Sam. I think what Adam's built is really remarkable. That's an example for me. The big lesson from Adam is your brand has to reflect. I don't know Adam, but your brand has to reflect who you are. Like, can you imagine doing what Adam does online unless like that's just who he really is? I mean,
Yeah.
it's all engrossing. It's brutally honest. It's sometimes really cringy, right? But he just embraces it and goes for it. So he's just being true to it. That brand strikes me as like extremely genuine. And there's a ton of power in that, and that's why it sticks out.
Yeah.
That was a good one, Sam. That was an exceptional one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, good. I don't want to give him too much credit. I got one last question for Scott. So, Scott, the year.
Oh,
that
notice
you
how
guys...
Matt didn't answer the question.
Oh, it was
Yeah, just a
beautiful.
little
Way to go.
sidestep there.
Like
I
you
said
bagged,
the double mint
you
twins.
bagged on Sam, and then you pivoted to one more question for Scott. Oldest media trick in the book. That's PR 101. Go for it.
Well, I'm the marketer, so. So the year that you guys had Summit, and you had the documentarian from Icarus.
Yeah, great story.
So,
by the way,
I mean, that was honestly still I've been to so many B2B conferences. That's the one that like I can remember everything about the room.
Yeah.
I can remember the keynote. I can remember everybody who was in the room that day. And there's a very specific detail that I want to get into. I can't remember what year that was. Was that 17 or was that 18 that you guys did?
sounds about right. I don't.
Sounds about right. So there was Scott on stage introducing, and you got your you've got your vibe going, and you were wearing a pair of Adidas Superstars, and I was like, the white and black shell toes, baby. And like, fast forward 7 years, Adidas everywhere. And like on that day, I was like, I haven't seen a pair of shell toes in a minute. How does it feel to have influenced an entire generation of young people who are all running around in these Adidas now, all because there you were on stage, not 7 or 8 years ago? Just incredible, right?
It's all planned by I don't get any of the credit. That's just all planned by my wife. Like what I wear, I have nothing to do with it. But my wife didn't like those shoes. She didn't like the were you calling it the shell toe? She didn't like the shell toe on those shoes. So now I only wear Stan Smiths. I'm not allowed to wear the Superstars anymore. So I've moved on.
Yeah, but I thought that just the look was so kick-ass, and then I was like, man, Adidas, I hadn't really thought about it, and then bang, here it is, it's everywhere. You cannot go anywhere and not, yeah.
But 7 years later, I mean, a broken clock's right twice, right? Like, it's just
I don't know.
Yeah.
That does. Matt has always remarked on your shoe game. Like you were coming to a meeting. He was at Everstring. I was there early, and you walked in and you were wearing Vans.
Yeah,
really.
Dude, could not stop talking about it, dude.
That's
honestly, and it did look pretty fresh, dude. You walked in, you're like the CEO, founder of Topo, big deal, and you're just rocking the Vans, and it was like, yeah, big timer. All right. We're over time. Oh, by the way, I'd answer. By the way, I think we forget one of the remarkable storytelling exercises was Nick Mehta at Gainsight.
Sure. Yeah,
and it wasn't all social. It was.
Let me ask you this. So, do you think Nick was telling a story or creating a category?
He was creating a mission. I'm not sure about I think the category keeps saying. I think he created
mission. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a whole new way to think about things. But so you're right. Maybe it wasn't the story, but he took kind of, I'd have to figure out if it fell into a category in your methodology.
But it's still a founder brand, right? I mean,
and it was
that's
remarkable. His founder brand. Like I had to go this year. I wanted to help hire a CS person. Who did I go to? Nick. Yeah. I needed some metrics on CS. Who did I go to? Nick. So you're right. This is a little bit different.
It is a story. It is a story. It's the second story type. It's a transformation story, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's like, hey, there's this new function, right? And every company's going to have it. And we just happen to be the company Gainsight that you come to if you need help with it. That's a powerful story. And Nick's personality, I mean, Nick is just Nick, right? He's capable of telling any story he wants to tell. He has a really, really strong personality. I mean that in the best way possible, a really strong, compelling personality.
Yeah.
That's
all
a
right.
good one.
Well, that was all right. Great show. Scott coming in hot from a winter wonderland. But this is the transaction now. Like this is the stuff we want to do. We want to tell stories. We want to give examples, and that's what we did today. So it was killer. Also, welcome Sam back. We got to make fun of Sam, and he added value. That's a win for us.
Well, not according to Matt, but yeah, I thought you did a good job. I thought you did a good job, Sam.
I thought it was good. I also think that today's podcast was the first time someone said the word doublemint and twins.
How about diaspora?
Like 1988. Oh, diaspora too. Yeah, we started off strong with the vocab lesson.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go. My buddy's an English teacher, and every time he uses a fun word, he sends me a text. I'm gonna get him with diaspora.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, all right, guys. Good work.
Amazing.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.